Good day and welcome back from Rook's Rest. My name is Ebube and you are listening to Popcorn for Dinner. Today we're in a little bit of recovery mode after the insane events of the previous episode. We're checking in with everyone we care about and the people who are annoying us just a little bit to see what they're thinking about what happened. And we're also getting to check in with the small folk to see how they're handling all of the news in the realm. There's a lot going on, and there's definitely a lot to cover today. So I have some help. I have Afam here with me once again to break down everything going on in this episode. So Afam, how are we feeling today about the episode? And in general, what should we be looking out for?
I think mentally I'm still at Rook's Rest. I know everyone else has moved on. Melis's head has made its way to...
I haven't moved on.
I haven't moved on. I'm still there. It was such a good episode. I rewatched it a bunch of times, like, because of the screeners. And then I rewatched the last 20, 30 minutes, like, 5 times. And mentally, I'm still there.
Absolutely mental.
But, you know, we have to move on eventually. And because the story moves on. And no one's at Rook's Rest anymore except for Aegon's banners.
And Sunfire, apparently, who is not doing great. He is not doing great whatsoever.
Yeah.
But yeah, before we get into all that, just wanted to let everybody know that we are still covering season 4 of The Boys, which is an absolute blast. And our episodes covering The Bear are finally out. We have one episode doing episodes 1 to 5, and another doing episodes 6 to 10. The team has done an extensive job on this, so please go listen to Aisha, Chinedu, and Jerry break down everything going on at the Bear and inside Carmi's mind. We're still talking about Inside Out and still thinking about it, so definitely listen to our episode on that and prepare for a lot of coverage that is coming down the line. Having said all that, though, this episode is a little bit of a slow one, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, the calm after the storm, you know. And also they ran out of money. They blew the whole budget
ran out of money.
Fight. Yeah.
Interesting. And it's funny, right? Because we can't even call this a bottle episode because they were all over the place. This was not even like a one location episode. I don't think this kind of show even does that type of thing. But yeah, we start out with, you know, some reactions to what's happened to Rhaenys. First and foremost to her husband. Then we head off to King's Landing to see how they're telling people the news. From there, we go to the council at Dragonstone. We see what Jace is thinking as well. After that, we go to Daemon in the Riverlands and check in with how he's dealing with not just the Blackwoods, but the Strongs and everyone at Harrenhal. We get to meet Lady Jane Arryn in this episode and check in with Rhaenyra now that she's arrived there. We hear a little bit from Miss Arya, and she talks to Rhaenyra a little bit about ruling while they're in the library, which is interesting. And Rhaenyra and Bela talk a little bit about Rhaenys as well, which, you know, if the rest of us are doing it, it's only fair that the people actually in the world of the show are talking about Rhaenys. We check in with Daemon again. Well, we'll get to that because this man has some deep mommy issues, very deep. Aemond finds himself in a very new place, a new standing in this episode too. Mm-hmm. And Kristen Cole is not doing so great either, but we'll get to him too. So yeah, there's a lot going on in this episode and a lot of wheels have set in motion. So I guess we'll just start at the beginning. Seeing Corlys actually react to Rhaenys' death, we see him sitting down on his great throne, and he's in tears because he's lost the person that he's done everything for, right? Following his reaction with Rhaenyra is a very nice touch because it shows the one who has lost and the one who feels responsible. And I think that sets up a great contrast for when we go to King's Landing. And I mean, they love to do the parading through the streets in that place for whatever reason. Like that just seems to be their thing. And you have a guy saying Meleys, the traitor dragon Meleys, which is wild, bro. Traitor dragon, slain by your king. And I was just there like, oh, really, slain by a king? And I was like, wow, I should have seen this coming. Did Otto come up with that?
It was slain by their new king, Aemon.
Fair enough. Fair enough. I mean, the people definitely still can't believe it, but how do you feel about, I guess, the overall reaction from the small folk to this entire thing? Because as Cole asks, it doesn't seem like they're aware that they're the ones who won the battle. Because there are crazier things at stake here.
Yeah, again, I think we had this conversation last episode, who won the battle, and technically the blacks got Rook's rest. Yay. And they killed Rhaenys, and Meleys, which is the fastest dragon, but Aegon is not doing well right now. Aegon is
you mean the blacks or the greens?
What did I say? See, I'm so team black that I'm just like, the greens won the battle technically.
Gotcha.
Because they captured Rook's rest, and it was the battle for Rook's rest. But
okay.
what does that do? Your king is in such a bad state. You've handed the realm over to someone who's not okay mentally and has the biggest dragon. There's no voice of reason in that small council right now. So there's no voice of there's no one to temper the violence and the carnage that's to come. So did you win the war? And also, parading a dragon's head through the streets, why are you showing the small folks that dragons can be killed?
It's exactly. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for that. Because showing the small folk that dragons can be killed does not even help the greens.
Yeah.
It doesn't help them. It's like, why are you doing that? And you can tell from the small folks' reaction, this is great writing, because they're essentially planting an environment and they're giving us an idea of what the general sentiment is like. Whether or not that becomes important is besides the point. But we have a sense now of the small folk as a whole kind of acting as a character, because now it has a thought process, right? These people thought that dragons were invincible. Mm-hmm. And the fact is, they feel that even if dragons are invincible, they shouldn't be, right? Hugh comes in and says, it's just meat. And it's interesting that we hear that from Hugh, but it makes sense that people, especially the superstitious ones, would want to leave the city right after this, right? That's a very interesting thing to me, because now people are very scared. It's like, okay, if the dragons can fight each other and die, what the heck is going to happen to the rest of us?
Yeah.
I feel like anybody who is smart will want to leave, because they feel like this is an omen. Yeah. And you know what? Speaking of omens, isn't it wild that people are still ignoring Helaena?
Oh my God. Was it this episode that it was when she went up to Aemon? I was like, was it worth it?
Literally, it's like, was it worth the price? And even then, she's standing there just gingerly, while they're bringing Aegon's body up, and she's watching them go past, and like nobody's even talking to her. People aren't even bowing to her. It's almost as if she's not there, and it's very weird.
I mean, that's her husband, brother. You should talk to your husband, brother, and be like, "What's up?"
And Alicent watching these people remove the steel that has melted onto her son's skin is crazy. Like this whole thing is just a series of insanities. Like from the dragon head to Helaena being ignored yet again, to Alicent having to see this, even Aemond coming in there while the maesters are working and starting the conversation about succession right in front of all those people as they're treating Aegon. That is also wild. And I like that they showed us Alicent seeing the cat's paw dagger on Aemond. Yeah. Because,
Also, the whole cat's paw dagger thing, I kind of wish it wasn't in House of the Dragon. Like, I understand that, this is the knife that kills the Night King, and it's the knife that was attempted to be used to kill Bran, but I don't know why it's just become such an important symbol. To me, it's just a knife, bro. And it's Valyrian steel, which is cool, but I guess I never just understood why they had to just make it seem like, oh, this is the real thing, the most important thing.
I guess they wanted to give it more significance and, link to the show in that way, to Game of Thrones, I mean, just so that there's an overarching theme in the way things are done, that the characters all have a goal that started even from way back here, right? And honestly, by the way, speaking of links to Game of Thrones, man, Ramin is on fire. Like, the man is on fire.
In the heat of battle, he doesn't miss. In the heat of controversy, he doesn't miss.
Like, the music that they were playing while Aegon was being carried to his room, like that is an extra somber version of King's Arrival, which is the song we first hear when Robert Baratheon shows up at Winterfell in the first episode of Game of Thrones. We've heard different versions of this song throughout the series. One of my favorite ones was at the beginning of the final season, when two very important people come to Winterfell for a very important reason. And I think it makes a lot of sense that they're using it here, because this is the King's Arrival and it should be a victorious one, but it isn't. It isn't, right? And the Greens are definitely still reeling from this loss, except for Aemond, who I feel like if he's not careful, people will start to see that this is going a little too well for him. This may be according to plan for him. I mean, he needs to watch that.
Yeah.
But yeah, actually, how, like, since we know that Alicent clearly feels that Aemond had something to do with this, and maybe she'll find something out sooner or later. You know, she asks Cole about it, of course. How do we feel about what's going on the black side, where Rhaenyra's son, Jacaerys, is itching to make moves?
Yeah.
So I feel like he's starting to think, okay, everybody's doing something, but I'm not. Like, what's going on? Remember, these guys are all very similar in age, right?
Yeah.
So
I respect that move Jace did. It's really, so I was like, okay, bro, go make moves.
Yeah, right.
Go make moves. It's because, you know, we'll get towards the final scene in the episode and talk about it in more detail. But, you know, the whole point Rhaenyra made about how, you know, you don't think I wish I could just go do all these things right now, you know, fly over my dragon, you know, not be powerless. But it's pretty cool that Jace was able to take initiative and just go and try and make some moves.
Yeah.
I think all the Greens need is Daemon back. It sounds sad, but like I feel like Rhaenyra doesn't really have a hold on the small council, and I don't know what she can do to like.
It's hard because they see her as a child, right? And she asks in this episode, like, what am I if I'm, you know, essentially beholden to my husband and his whims and whatever sway he carries? Like, people are scared of Daemon, not necessarily out of respect, more out of fear, because like literally he's insane and he's kind of unpredictable, right? But I don't know if they're trying to give Alfred Broom a Sundari arc because, you know, it's like he's the one that Rhaenyra is sending to treat with Daemon, and I don't know how well that plan is going to work, and I guess I'll talk more about this in a bit. But with Jacaerys' plan, at first I'm like, okay, you're going to get in some trouble. But I have to admit,
it worked out.
He kind of did okay.
Yeah. He was meeting with the Freys, who are notoriously, you know.
God. I mean, okay, so first of all, Vermax has grown, albeit barely. So I guess we can thank God for that, right? The small folk want meat. I think it's funny that a dragon was just called meat, and then we see like a smaller dragon, literally like in one of the subsequent scenes. And I think Jace's plan works a little bit, and you can tell me how you feel about his overall ideas in a bit. But I find it funny how the Freys are so greedy in literally any generation. Like even now in this moment, in the midst of all this, they're looking to get Harrenhal, and it's just like, wow, right? And we know that in Game of Thrones they don't have Harrenhal, right? So it's like, okay, what happened? How does this go for them, and how does this go for Jacaerys? Should I be worried? You know, because him offering Daemon's protection is crazy, like Lucas Matson, crazy. Like it's lacking in foresight in a sense, because what if Daemon kind of gets annoyed with that? Like, what are we gonna do? Right? And by the way, is it just me, or were they using a door as a table?
I don't think I noticed that.
Like, I was looking at this table, I was like, is this really a table? It looks like a gate. But anyway, what do you think of what Jace has done here? Do you think this will have repercussions? Because last time we saw a prince/king interact with the Freys, it did not go so well for him.
Yeah, it did not. But I don't know, in my head, and even when the last king interacted with the Freys, it makes sense. It's just, it just comes down to Daemon. What's Daemon doing? And will he please stop tripping and playing king in the Riverland and come home? Because
bro, that dude is tripping balls.
He's tripping so bad, and he's actually kind of a bad king. I gave Viserys so much shit earlier on, but Look at what Daemon did this episode. For what? He literally
Viserys has always
lost.
deserved a tiny bit more credit.
He has.
Because like
It
that
pains
man,
me.
he didn't do anything, but at least he was holding everything together.
Exactly. He didn't do
At
anything.
least. Now, I think literally this man was always stressed, and that's why his disease was working overtime.
But that disease came from him real quick.
Thinking about Daemon, right? Okay, let's be real. He's bumbling.
Yeah.
There's no other way to say it. This guy is not doing what he should be doing. His plans are backfiring, and the Brackens are really bold. I mean, that line from the trailer, I did not think they would be so eager to die. I almost want to clap for them. It's like, we choose fire. Like, they all turned around. It's like, okay, burn us from behind. It's like, wow.
That's what I thought he was going to do. That's really what I thought he
Yeah,
would
I
do.
didn't expect him to let them go. Like, what do you think of that? I mean, he says that he wants men who are that bold around. So he's willing to bring them to heel, even if he has to, make them hate him to do so, as Alice Rivers cautions against later. But I think his shady plan is kind of stupid, because I was a little surprised that William Blackwood agreed to do it without any hesitation.
Really?
I mean,
I'm not surprised. It's the Blackwoods.
I mean, I know
and
the
the
Blackwoods
Brackens.
hate the Brackens, but I thought Willem was a little bit of a measured type. I don't know.
Measured. He killed somebody when he was vying
He
for
was a
Rhaenyra's
child
hand.
and they attacked him first.
Bro, you still killed that motherfucker. He got a taste for their blood.
That's true. But I mean, obviously, we catch up with Daemon a little bit later. This is one of, and this part of the episode is kind of what I feel might have been maybe the most insane. Like this was a very slow episode, like we said. So I think they had some planted, poignant moments here and there, and I feel like Daemon, in his tripping, is sort of starting to weird even us out now, because we do like all realize that was his mother, right?
I thought it was Emma at first.
Yes, because I mean, she looks a lot like Emma, Viserys' first wife, Rhaenyra's mother, which interesting on a different level, right? But the fact that it was Alyssa Targaryen, right, who we haven't seen in a while, she's mentioned in more than one place in this episode, right? When Rhaenyra and Baela are talking, they mention that Meleys was Alyssa's dragon, and Daemon tried to claim her and didn't succeed, but Rhaenys did, and that's how they built that relationship. And Daemon went on to claim Caraxes, which is fantastic. I think that's much better suited to him. But it's interesting that this is a reminder that the dragons they have a longer lifespan than humans do, and a lot of them have been around for several decades.
Yeah,
someone like a dragon like Vhagar, I think, has been around for over 150 years at this point, and that's very cool. I think Meleys may be close to 80. So it's interesting that they mention her there, and then we see her in this more intimate setting with Daemon, because the way he's tripping is wild. Like he's still delusional, talking about leading people, and this interaction with her in this vision, this apparition of her that he sees, is building his ego, saying you were always the better son, you were always more suited to this, more suited to that, and it's feeding into all these weird ideas he's having about taking the throne for himself. Isn't it interesting that the Blacks and the Greens both have a rogue prince figure that is trying to become a second usurper?
It is interesting, but I feel like even though I dislike Aemon because he's a school shooter, he is still probably will be a better king than Daemon.
100%. Daemon.
Damn, this would be such a bad
honestly,
king.
Actually, are we sure about that? Is because they're both very erratic.
Yes, but like, okay, look at Aemon's plan to kill a dragon at Rook's Rest. That was a good plan. I don't care what anybody says. It was a good plan. Our people
can't
lost.
Take that from him.
No one. They both lost, but our people lost. A very important figure that people care about. But like, it was a very good plan. Look at what Daemon's plan is to win over the River Lords. Such a dumb plan.
But why is he renovating Harrenhal?
Bro.
Like, why? Who is like? Who has the money for this? Who has the time for this?
Nobody. Like, literally
why
nobody.
Why are you renovating Harrenhal of all places? And even on top of that, he doesn't want to call his wife. Like, bro, you're running out of funds. You realize that, right?
It's pride is online. That's the issue. They just need to text each other and be like, yo, what's up?
I mean, but like, still, like, why is he trying? He's gone from my prince to your grace to now he's asking to be called my king. Let's be guided.
He wants the throne, man, but he ain't gonna get it, boy. Because Rhaenyra is the rightful queen of the 7 kingdoms, first of her name. Blah 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 blah.
But do you think that's something he actually wants? Like, I think he thinks is what he wants. But first of all, it's interesting that Alice Rivers has so much practical sway over him already, right? And even the way she mentioned his mother, I don't even know. Assuming she was responsible for that vision, which we can't say for sure that she was. How did she know to mention her at that time, and why mention her at that time? You know, like he's
spooky stuff.
Yeah, and he turns around and he's talking about fetting the Blackwoods in these halls because they've done his bidding. You know, he has no real loyalty anymore. I think the vision from episode 4 is kind of a throwback to season 1 in a sense, right? The vision where he sees Rhaenyra coming down from the throne to talk to him in perfect Valyrian. In season 1, it was the other way around. Daemon's first scene, we see him on throne. We hear that he's returned. We see him, and then Rhaenyra goes and talks to him, and that's when he gives her that necklace and everything. So now she's the one in power, and you know the fact that the throne is even big on her head, and like she's wearing the clothes that older Rhaenyra wears, it's showing that okay, this guy still sees her as like some child that stole his quote unquote birthright, which it was never his in the first place.
True, it was never his.
The fact that he is comfortable harming her now, like in that vision, like because he cuts her head off, right? It feels weird to him, and I wonder if he wants her dead deep down, because now it seems that everything Alice said to Daemon in episode 4 was kind of true. Like he's frustrated by the notion that he now has to pay obeisance to somebody he sees as a child, as Alice says, right? But I mean, even though that didn't stop him from sleeping with, marrying, and having children with her in that order, but his actions in episode 5 kind of prove Alice right, though they may not really be proving her right so much as being a self-fulfilling prophecy, in the sense that he's only doing what he's doing because he heard what she said. Like, do you think she's influencing him in that way, or is she actually kind of seeing the future? It's very hard to say, right? Because this is a very weird relationship with a very weird character.
I kind of view it as seeing the future, you know, because, you know, we've talked about prophecy so much, at least I have. And I think she's just seeing the future, and it's like, yeah, it's what's going to happen. But I definitely think you need to see the future to see the short-sightedness of some of Daemon's decisions. Obviously, you need to see the future to know you're dreaming about his mom, but in terms of like the river laws are going to turn against you if you do this, I could have told him that. I could have told him that easy.
Yeah, but he's wrong, isn't he? Because, man, does his plan backfire. His plan
backfires, man. When they called him, they hired a dragon for... No, what did they call him? I can't remember.
They hired dragon.
That was what the Blackwoods or Brackens or whoever called him. But when everyone then came to wake him up in the night and they just dissed him out there, bro. Oh, my God.
She called him an interloper, bro.
Interloper, bro.
I said, was like, what?
Wow. That is... I didn't... My bad, bro. I didn't know you had the vocabulary to call someone an interloper, bro.
First of all, these people came at the hour of the wolf, which, for anybody not familiar with the term, is probably somewhere between 3 a.m. and 5 a.m., right? So what's interesting to me with that is Blackwood and his guys did this waving the Targaryen banner, which they did not get permission to do. He said the crown cannot be seen to do certain things. And you can see that Daemon has a reaction when he's told that they were waving the Targaryen banner, red dragon on black, right? So that means Blackwood went and did what he did, but wanted to make sure that he had the insurance of being able to say that Daemon told him to do it. So Daemon didn't want to be linked to these actions, not realizing that they had literally stamped his name all over it. And in the moment, like in that moment, he's seeing Laena. What'd you say?
And Rhaenyra's name too.
Yeah, exactly. You know, he's seeing Laena as well, and she's asking him if he's looked after their girls in these tumultuous times. I think it's very interesting that he's seeing his mother, his former wife, and his daughters he clearly has terrible relationships with the women in his life, but you know, he's weakening Rhaenyra's claim every chance he gets. Right, he's talking about going to King's Landing. When he mentioned that, upon first arriving in Harrenhal, you thought it was for Rhaenyra, right? Like that's what we would assume. But he's trying to go there, take the throne, and be like, okay, Rhaenyra can come and take her place on my side. Like, what a dick!
What a dick! Man.
Like, what an actual loser, bro! Like, you're here tripping balls. You have no idea what's going on.
Help your wife, man.
I mean, I don't know, man. Rhaenyra definitely needs help too. I mean, I talked about how she's sending Alfred Broom to treat with Daemon now. And I wonder, can she really trust Alfred Broom? Number one. Number two, will he succeed? Like, what if Daemon literally just roasts him on sight? Like, you know, Rhaenyra, we have to admit, is notably bad at making deals. You know, she lacks street smarts in a way certain other characters don't. Like, I mean, we just saw episode 4 where she literally played right into a trap. If not for Rhaenys, Rhaenyra was planning to go herself. And that would have been it. Like House of the Dragon over. We just pack our bags and go. We just close this podcast. Like,
hey, Jace would do some stuff, man. He's making moves. He can continue to make moves.
I don't see that guy lasting more than 5 minutes. If Rhaenyra and Daemon are gone, I don't know how the rest of it will work. I actually don't know. Because now that Rhaenys is gone too, like she did not necessarily have too much battle experience, but Meleys did.
Yeah.
Right. And look, if you look at the tactics, even her approaching Vhagar and then turning upside down, which is very reminiscent of how eagles actually fight. And then the fight is looking like a dance in the air. She's able to use Vhagar's weight against her to then bring her crashing down to the ground. Like, she actually won that first round, if not for Sunfire's presence and the fact that Sunfire, like, kind of weakened Meleys and Rhaenys at the beginning. They might have had more of a chance. I mean, Aemond and Vhagar love their sneak attack.
I just think Vhagar is such a cheat code. I think Meleys could just have run. I think that's just it. You see Vhagar, you run. So that's what Napoleon
just
did.
Like you see a windmill, you run.
You see Vhagar, you run.
It's I don't know, man. Everything is difficult because now Aemond has even more power.
Yeah,
like he really does.
Bro.
He didn't even waste time, you know, like because obviously both it's sad and kind of poetic almost that both Rhaenyra and Alicent in this episode are having it up to here with men who don't realize that they've seen as little war as the women. Like, these have been peaceful times. Everybody's like, oh, but you're a woman. How can you lead us through war? Gee, I don't know, man. Can you? Because there are lots of parallels here. I mean, I already mentioned the Rook Prince parallel, but, you know, that dude, I think it's Jasper Wilde, saying the Dowager Queen is a woman. It's like, oh, bruh. Like, please. And now that Kristen Cole has no voice, for whatever reason, like, he's just traumatized. He's claiming he wants to protect Alicent from moral quandaries, but I mean, he doesn't help her. Larys doesn't help her. No more feet for him, you know. Aemond, well, like I said, he didn't waste any time sitting in the chair once they chose him, did he? He just got up and started levying decrees. Yeah, like I mean, what do you think is going to come of this? Like, how do you even think the council is going to function? Because think about it. Now we've lost Otto and we've even lost Aegon.
Yeah. And we've kind of lost Alicent in a weird way.
Yep.
Those are the two, well, Aegon doesn't count, but two voices of reason are gone. There's no, that's
it's like Rhaenys is gone.
It's just
parallels of what this group is losing. Interesting.
What did you say?
So it's just like Rhaenys is gone too. Like the parallels, there's just continue to be parallels in what each group is gaining / losing.
Losing, yeah. And it's, even in that small council meeting, like I think my second favorite scene this episode was the close up on Alicent when you just hear her breathing, bro. The way she looked at
so
Aemon when he talks about Aemon when he talks about the small folks was like, I wanted to clap, bro. She looked at him and was like, oh my god, dude.
That was such crazy. An amazing directing choice.
Mm-hmm.
Like lingering on her, closing in as the meeting continued, right? Like you can see her humiliation from them rejecting her turn into anxiety, which then progresses into sheer panic as she listens to Aemond just talking without a moment's hesitation, saying things that she could have given better opinions on. I mean, locking the city gates and preventing small folk from leaving, as you said, that's where she reacted. That's a notable one, right? And of course, he's like, "Let's please cut down the rat catcher. Like, let's not be associated with that rubbish anymore." That's the one good thing he said.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, that dog is so loyal. That dog is so loyal, bro. Like, is anybody feeding that dog?
He's still there. I'm sure there's a siege going on, so there's no food anywhere, bro. Shout out to that dog.
Okay, but speaking about hungry dogs and just hunger in general, Hugh's family, man.
Bro,
what are they going to do?
Bro, they're down bad. They're down bad.
I like that they're establishing real character motivations for him by kind of showing us background, showing us the stress he's going through. He's becoming very disgruntled, right? And his wife is making very morbid sense. It's like, yeah, when the king cashes in on his promises, quote unquote, you can use them to feed ghosts. I was like, wow.
Wow. Do they know that Aegon is like not there?
Definitely not, because literally a dragon's head was just paraded through the streets and they said it was slain by the king, right? And they've probably never seen him. They don't know his face. He should have been on a horse. If he was fine, he should have been on a horse riding through. But I'm sure they'll tell people, nah, he's in his dragon. He's just on his dragon. Like, he flew back a different way, whatever. And now, I mean, you think about how long it took them to get back here. It's been a while, right? We can assume some time has passed. So that armor melted onto his skin. Like, that's really set in there now. So this dude is basically in a coma at this point, right? So when they're leaving, when they're at least trying to leave town, they mention, one of the gold cloaks mentions Aemon's name. And they're like, is that the king? It's like, no, they don't know, because everything has changed. And things are getting into a state of real disarray. Like, man, Viserys, you could have prevented this. I said Viserys, he could have prevented this. He really could have, you know? I just...
He could have done, bro. Again, there was only one chance at peace here. And that's marrying a certain girl of a certain age, but...
Yeah, but then, you know, Daemon took her.
Oh my God, Daemon did. He
did, right? It just like it just keeps going around in a circle. He did, and you know, speaking of that girl he took, right? Her daughters, you know, how are they doing right now? Because we see that Rhaenyra has finally arrived at the Vale. You know, she's in the Eyrie now. And nobody is happy in that place. That place has a certain vibe. It's a very cool castle, and it always looks so roomy and spacious and airy because of all the windows and the fact that it's so high in the sky, which is a very cool design thing. I mean, it's like the one castle that you literally cannot breach, and they pride themselves in that. And Jane Eyre herself kind of reminds me of other Vale nobles we've seen in Game of Thrones, right? They're all so proud of the fact that they're from the Vale. And remember, she's Rhaenyra's cousin, right? So she definitely has a bit of a, I guess, kind of a high horse that she's sitting on. But what did you think of her interaction with Rhaenyra? Like, is Rhaenyra preparing for diplomacy? Is Rhaenyra annoying her too much?
I think Rhaenyra has to take the diplomatic angle because she doesn't have I'm just going to grab my dragon and burn everything down energy.
Yeah.
And
exactly.
I think, you know, just playing the cards you have dealt, you know?
Yeah. And, you know, I'd say her, as far as her sister is concerned, right? Daemon and Laena's other daughter, Bela, I find it very touching that she is kind of she's talking through her own grief with Rhaenyra, and then taking that renewed strength or whatever she can build from it and using it to encourage Jace and also to build Corlys back up. She's been very supportive, and I know people probably like Bela quite a lot. She's becoming a lot of people's favorite character, and she's doing a good job generally in this show. She's somebody that really could have just been like just some random side character, but I think she's making like a name / presence for herself in this series. I feel that, you know, now that Rhaenyra is trying to, Rhaenyra is trying to build, right? She's trying to make sure that Rhaenys' loss is not for nothing. You know, so obviously she sends Baela to give Corlys the hand of the kingpin. How do we feel about this? And his reaction too, because he's like, bro, how much more do you people want from me?
As he's to retire. I mean, I think that might be my favorite part of the episode, if I'm being honest. It's just watching someone contemplate loss fully, and then, you know, your grandchild, like, motherfucker, snap out of it, you know? There's work to be done.
Yeah, because he has a bad habit, right, of escaping.
Yeah, he does.
Whenever he thinks things like push is coming to shove, right? He gets angry and he leaves. I mean, last time he did this, it was the Stepstones. He literally just disappeared. Then, actually, no, that was 2 times ago. Like, after that, later on, I think he went to fight the new war in Stepstones, and that's how he got seriously injured and almost died. And that's when Alan pulled him out, right? We see that towards the end of season 1.
Yeah. And he offered the throne to her. That was like, I was like, oh, that's what your wife wanted. And then she was like, I am not fire and blood. Sorry, I'm not salt and I'm fire and blood. I'm not salt and sea. I'm like, damn, bro, you spin.
That's a great line. That's a great line.
So who is his heir now? Is this still Joffrey?
So here's the thing. His heir was Lucerys, and we would assume that it would pass to Joffrey. But I think the way that it's going to work instead is he has to name a new heir. And he has options. I mean, the show is definitely doing its best to show us his options. There's Baela, who has now refused it officially. There is Rhaena, who could probably take it, though I think she wants to be a Targaryen more than she wants to be a Velaryon. And of course, there is Joffrey, but we know that there's also Alan and Adam. These are his natural sons. And they are sailors. They are salt and sea.
Salt and sea, yeah.
All he would have to do is legitimize them. And they would go from being Adam and Alan of Hull to Adam and Alan Velaryon.
But won't that be a betrayal of Rhaenys' memory? Because Rhaenys wanted her grandkids.
Not necessarily. In her last interaction with Corlys, she says, like, she understands the pain of seeing this dude being a living reminder of her husband's infidelity. But even in that moment, she's able to say, you should honor him. Like, this boy saved you. He should be taken to a place where people can appreciate him and pay him obeisance rather than just hiding him here, like in the docks and stuff, right? I know a lot was on Rhaenys' mind when she, like during this battle. And people have been asking, I think, through the course of this past week, why she went back. And I mean, I myself struggled with this for a while. And in a lot of ways, I still am. But I tried to look at it through the lens of the writing. Like, on one hand, there's the fact that this is a battle, right? And she was sent here by her queen to fight for their side. So if she leaves, it would essentially be desertion. And she would have accomplished nothing. So Rook's rest would have been taken and Lord Staunton and his men would have been toast. It would have been her willingly handing the victory to the Greens. On the other hand, there's the fact that she's been through so much. She knows grief like a sister at this point. She's outlived both her children, and she had just literally, as I just said, seen the spitting image of her husband in what is a manifestation of his legacy outside of what he has with her. So that kind of thing can be enough to break a person. On some level, I wondered if she was just like, I have nothing left to fight for that's greater than this battle. So, you know, if this is my time, so be it. You know, no better way to die than for my queen and with my dragon. Plus, on top of all this, there's her extended sense of responsibility, you know, and maybe even guilt as far as the show is concerned, because Daemon was running his mouth in episode 1 saying we wouldn't be in this position if you had just killed them all when you had the chance. right, in episode 9. And I think it would make sense that something like that would get to Rhaenys on some level, especially in a moment like this, during that battle, because you could kind of see this as a potential chance for her to make amends for that time when she didn't kill everybody. And now she had Aegon, and the real problem was Aemon. She had strong resolve despite that, though. So the touching thing is the fact that her right to the throne was taken away from her simply because she was a woman. So she chose to die fighting for another woman's right to be queen. And I think Rhaenyra's chance at the throne has essentially become Rhaenys' legacy, because she's giving Rhaenyra the advocacy that Viserys never did.
Yeah.
Right. Overall, she didn't want the dragons involved due to the mass devastation that they would bring about. But I think she partly felt that if anyone should draw first flame, it should be her. Like, was that arrogant of her to think, oh, I'm the one who can control my dragon the best, I'll handle this the best? Perhaps. I have one friend who thinks Rhaenys is actually very smug. I don't necessarily agree with him. He thinks Rhaenys is very smug, right? And I think that there are some people in the fan base that wonder if that's the case. I don't know. I think she's kind of just royal, and I think there's a certain way that people behave when they have a certain kind of entitlement, even when they have good hearts. But yeah, it's hard to say if she was truly arrogant to believe that, but she definitely did significantly better than anyone else would have. This was their best person, and that's why it's such a big loss for the Blacks. Like, they've lost their best fighter. Daemon is a great fighter, but he's not a team player. That's the problem. Rhaenys was a team player, and now she's gone. They're literally in disarray. I wonder actually if they're in more disarray from this than if they had lost Rhaenyra. Because they had lost Rhaenyra, they would have put Jacaerys on top, and now they have, a guy facing the guy that the Greens have on their own throne.
It's a child.
They're not too different in age. They train together.
Who? Yeah, but like, it's a child that, one is like a nepo baby, and Jace technically the
They're
nepo
both
baby.
nepo babies. This is the same family.
Jace is like, he's a nepo baby who doesn't have the backing of like an Otto. He has a small dragon,
Yeah, but he would have Rhaenys now. He would have Rhaenys and Corlys.
Yeah,
grandparents.
I think if Rhaenyra is dead, it's GG's, man.
Yeah, it's over, right?
It's GG's. I mean, Jace is making moves, but like, he's making it. It's an interesting thought experiment, to be fair. I'm trying to think it through. What happens if Rhaenyra was the one who died instead of Rhaenys? But I think but even, I don't know, Rhaenyra is, she needs to do more. And I don't know what it is she can do, because she doesn't seem to have a grasp on the small council. People aren't being direct in her. I mean, she said that she would rather people blamed her for Melis's death than just skirt around it, almost like that.
Yeah. People aren't being direct with her, right? And she says this to Mysaria. And first of all, making moves, naming heirs, there's a lot going on the Black side of things. And, we've just talked about why we think Corlys probably named Bela as heir and what his own options are. But I think with Rhaenyra, right, her discussing with Mysaria, she's thinking of her own legacy. And Mysaria is telling her that she has a legacy that's being built in real time right now with the small folk, right? And Mysaria knows who those people are, which is always a useful thing, right?
Her accent was coming back a little bit this episode.
just a little, yeah. I think Mysaria having Gold Cloak loyalty is very notable.
Yeah.
And I think it's very interesting that it's Elinda Massey that is sent to King's Landing to do whatever it is that Mysaria has planned. It's yet even more interesting that the person she's meeting is Diana, right? So I wonder, I don't know, the show is really making these small people become very, I guess,
central.
Yeah, in a way, like they're giving them more rules, and like there's just, if that whole section of the episode felt like a part where wheels were just turning, right? We're seeing things develop. We saw Elinda meeting Diana. We saw Corlys contemplating, right? We saw Aemond meditating on the throne, right? Right after Corlys is contemplating about being hand, and he grips the pin, which maybe we're supposed to take that to mean he's going to accept, right? Helena asked him, as you reminded us, right? Was it whether it was worth the price? The difference, though, between Aemon and Daemon in this regard is, I feel like what Daemon is going through right now is partly because he feels some guilt for his actions, and I wonder if Aemon still feels guilt. He's clearly transformed, right? He, like when Lucerys was killed, he felt the shock of that. We saw his face. He was not expecting that to go the way it did. And he realized for the first time, yo, I'm probably not in control of this dragon, which is something he should have realized sooner, right? And now he's killed Rhaenys, and his face when he does it,
that look was
very
fucking
proud.
crazy, man. He looked down,
like that was
and
insane,
like,
man.
bet.
And then he goes with his sword to, do whatever he was about to do. I thought he was sheathing his sword, but we can't know for sure. Like, if Cole wasn't there, would he have stabbed Aegon in the neck and finished it all? Like, we don't know.
Maybe.
So I feel like the Greens, they probably need to wash their back. Like,
it's not
karma
looking
might be
good,
real.
man. It's not looking good. I need to do. I don't know. That's the thing. I'm like, if I was to be hired as a political advisor, what would I, a consultant charging 6 figures? What would I tell them to do?
I would tell them, first of all, rehire Otto. Rehire Otto. Then I would tell them that they need to have more foresight in their decisions, right? Because look at Alicent's scene with Aegon. For the life of her, she can't seem to get this motherhood thing like right, because literally not her leaving right before he calls out for her. That's crazy. Like she's, I don't know how long she's been sitting there. I don't even want to blame her too much for that one, because she couldn't have known, right? But I think her track record overall as a mother is in shambles, right? Because in episode 4, right, the events that led to all this, she chose to take the cruel route with Aegon, right? What she said, although true, was unnecessarily devastating. She did not have to approach it that way. And I think her words arguably brought him here. Yeah. And it makes you wonder now if Aegon is a victim. Like, it's something I've been thinking about for some time.
No,
right?
Zero. I'm sorry. He assaults people. He assaults people.
What I'm sure, like, but I mean, a lot of them do, but that's the thing, right? And this is my problem that I'm trying to state with the Greens. Despite their penchant for plotting, one problem they have is their lack of foresight. Let me put it that way. They've been pulling strings literally since this guy was born to put him on the throne, like since he was an infant. But somehow nobody thought it wise or prudent to put any effort into actually preparing him for the role. So now they're all angry with him for his incompetence. And no matter how you slice it, it's like, bro, what is he supposed to do? This is somebody who didn't even want to be king. If we're going to place Aegon against Rhaenyra and say who is better for this role, one of the only things Rhaenyra has going for her is the fact that she actually wants to do this, or wanted to. Now Aegon is here just to prove that he can do it.
Yeah.
And failing at doing that.
Oh, of course, got him. He's all burnt up and shit. I think this is like...
how long do you think he's going to be in bed? The whole rest of the season?
Well,
maybe the whole rest of next season too? Like, at least a year, right?
He looks like he's
these people don't have the kind of medication we have now.
The Maester said, like, I mean, we've done all we can do at this point. It's just to hope and pray. Thoughts and prayers. But damn, Aemon pulled off, I think, probably the best coup in Game of Thrones history. It was, make a plan that tricks your enemy into sending a dragon so you can kill the dragon, but then use your brother as bait in a weird way, and then 2 birds, 1 stone. Smart.
It's a little insane.
Yeah. I do have one weird question to ask you, though.
Okay.
Do you by chance know the difference between a hilt and a foible? Because you have to be a ruler.
Funny enough, yes.
Wait, what's the difference? I know what the hilt of a sword is. What's the foible?
It's sort of the thing that stops. How do I put this? It's because I'm not even finding anything right now as I'm looking it up, but just from memory, if a hilt is what you hold, the foible is kind of what prevents it from cutting you, the actual blade, if that makes sense. Yeah, so it's kind of like the point closest to the sword's point, which is the weakest. So it's designed to make things easier for you, but very hard for the person that you are fighting against. So is a part of a sword that is between the middle and the point, in a sense. So yeah.
Okay.
It's complicated. Like, I think different sword designers will have like different ways to put it. But
so I guess once you just tell that to Rhaenyra, then she's good.
Supposedly, yeah.
I'll text her right now.
You know who she should text? Daemon.
Her mans.
You know who else she should text? Alicent.
She shouldn't text Alicent. Why she texting Alicent? She already went all the way there, man. And what good did that do her?
It's interesting, though, that since that conversation, Rhaenyra has been a bit more sure of herself, but Alicent has been spiraling.
Yeah.
Right? She's talking to Cole outside, saying, you know what Daemon did, you know what he's become, as if the two of them did not literally preside over him becoming who he is right now. I found it funny that Kristen sounded a lot like Jaime after seeing a dragon in battle. Because at some point that happens, right? And the way Jaime was talking, like he had literally seen the end of the world. This is kind of how Kristen was. Like, all his bravado is sort of on pause right now because he's like, bro, we've given the word to the dragons and we might be screwed because there's nothing else. Like, he understands that it only makes sense at this point for Aemon to be the one who governs them. And, then they go on to break up, which I don't know how to feel about.
Did they break up? Is that what that is?
They kind of broke up because she was like, you cast me aside, and then he said nothing, and then he tries to call her by her first name.
I did not give
and
you leave.
She wasn't having it. So I don't know. It felt a little bit like a breakup to me, but we'll see.
Well, he's back to the streets, man. So who do you think he's going to go after next? Helena?
Actually, how would that even work?
Hey man, community dick is community dick. It's going over someone.
Oh my god. Yeah, like I mean, Alicent, before she leaves, right? She asks Mr. Community Dick, is strength to be our only god? And I think it's interesting that in episode 4, Cole was able to rebrand Aegon's folly in a way that worked for their team. Like, Aegon shows up unplanned, unannounced, and everybody's irritated. At least Cole and Aemon, who knew about the plan, were irritated, right?
Yeah.
But Cole still used that to arouse the troops. He was like, oh, your king has come to fight with you in this cause. And it really worked, right? His approach to being Hand of the King is clearly a more martial and militarized one, but he's doing all right so far. But he clearly doesn't know anything about politics, especially since, I'm sure a significant part of him is still insecure about coming from a minor house. And now he's seen what he's seen, and he's just like, bro, I'm way out of my depth here. That's kind of the vibe I'm getting from him.
He's been feeling upwards, and he's finally got to the point where I'm like, ooh.
Yeah, feeling upwards only gets you so far because, I mean, now that's, I don't know. It's, I'm curious to see what Aemond will do with his newfound power. I mean, we've already seen what he started doing, but I wonder when he actually became such a power hungry person. Like, I guess laugh at Aemond and get wrecked, man. That's the moral here. Because fire style dragon flame jutsu, like, he was not, like, Aegon was not prepared for that at all. We had so many parallels, like, we're even foreshadowing what was going to happen. Like, I remember in episode 4, right, Rhaenyra is talking to Jace in the library, which I guess is just going to be their thing now because they did that again this episode. And while she's telling him about the Song of Ice and Fire, which I feel should be informing his actions now. Like, now that you know what you're doing, you should know that you're fighting for more than just the throne. But yeah, while they were having that conversation, we saw a dragon skull in the background. I think that's probably the skull of Meraxes. Like, Meraxes, the dragon of the original Rhaenys Targaryen that conquered Westeros with Aegon and Visenya. Because sometime after they had started to establish the new kingdom in Westeros and everything, they tried to bring Dorne into the fold. Big mistake. And there were lots of wars there, and she actually died in the process. They shot Meraxes down, and Rhaenys fell. And they showed us that dragon head, the skull. And in this same episode, Rhaenys Targaryen of the present day, or the House of Dragon era, like, is dying in the exact same way.
Yeah.
I wonder, right? Like I guess it's just don't be named Rhaenys because even Rhaegar Targaryen's daughter with Ilya Martell in the Game of Thrones era,
Yeah.
she was named Rhaenys.
Yeah.
Things didn't end up too well for her either. Like, yeah. So I think that now, even going back to this whole library thing and all these conversations people are having, like there's a lot of foreshadowing and there are a lot of little details that I think could inform us about so many things. But what did you think about the actual conversation that was happening in that library between Rhaenyra and Jacaerys?
I think it's interesting because maybe inbreeding isn't the way to go.
Perhaps.
Perchance, because they are right. There's, I think since we mostly follow, at least in House of the Dragon, the line of the line of succession, we view only the people that are like 1 degree of removed from the royal family as to be the people who can ride dragons. But
yeah,
Jace raised an interesting point. Exactly. So Jace raised an interesting point. It's if you go 2 degrees, can someone still ride a dragon? If you go 3 degrees, can someone still ride a dragon? Or more importantly, do you just need to be a person who can just get a dragon to like you? Do you have to be a Targaryen?
Exactly. These are interesting questions, right? Yeah. What if other people can ride them?
Yeah. So right. It's I don't think I know exactly where they want to take that, but it is an interesting question of who are all the Targaryens family members who aren't in the direct line of throne, and can they also ride dragons?
Yeah, Rhaenyra is reading a lot, so she might be on her way to the answer. And I know Jacaerys smiles a little bit when she asks him about what happened at the twins. I think all the men in this family just really want acknowledgement. On some level it's cute, on some level it's sad. I haven't decided yet.
Yeah.
She levels with him in this conversation, right? And that's how even they get to the point where they're even discussing this idea of other people who can ride. She talks about restraints, talking about needing an answer for Vhagar and all that stuff. She doesn't even want to hear Daemon's name, but Jace does also mention the names of Vermithor and Silverwing, the dragons belonging to the old king Jacaerys the Conciliator and his wife Alysanne. They're in Dragonstone somewhere, chilling, right? So this idea of dragon seeds coming back again, after Ulf mentioned it, I feel like it's building towards something, right? The first 4 episodes built towards something very big, and we just saw that, right? And now it feels as though this episode was a chance for us to recover from episode 4 episodes 1 to 4 really, and then prepare us, set us up for what's coming in episodes 6 to 8. So yeah, as Jace says, trying this out, even if it fails, is better than death and defeat.
Exactly.
So it's nice that people are finally thinking outside the box on the black side. Because the Greens, they be thinking outside the box.
Blacks need to start scheming more somehow. They can't just be all high and mighty.
Yeah, and Jace recognizes that, right? He talks about how the legends of only dragon blood can control a dragon is, he recognizes that those are just stories that are designed to gatekeep and gild them in glory. So Rhaenyra's line at the end of that conversation, which is the final line in the episode, it's a mad thought. That's probably like a very good place to kind of end that conversation and the episode, so we see what's coming, because we're going to see clearly a lot more dragon action in the coming episodes, and I'm looking forward to that quite a bit. Yeah. Because like Rhaenyra has no one to send the headlines to. I know Bankole was saying last week that, they are here in the streets calling you Rhaenyra the cruel, Rhaenyra the bitch queen, horror of Dragonstone. And you're just there taking it, no headlines. And she doesn't have a ground army. That's the thing. She doesn't, like, as far as people are concerned, Aegon is the king and Rhaenyra is just somebody who is trying to take the throne from him.
Yeah.
They've successfully villainized her. And she has no real allies in that sense, because if your kingdom is the people, the person who's actually interacting with them is who they're going to know, even if they don't know him all that well, right? So as far as Rhaenyra is concerned, she's just somebody on an island off the coast of King's Landing that's saying, hey, I'm supposed to be the sovereign, but she doesn't have anything to prove it. Like I already said, she's pretty bad at making deals. Even when she talked to Alton in episode 3, she just goes there and like her whole plan is just to say, Alton, but like, okay, so you've heard me, right? Give me the throne. You offer her something. Like offer her somebody in marriage. Like literally offer her anything. Literally anything. Like you could betroth Joffrey to Jacaerys, for example. That could bring some peace. Like you can say that those ones will rule together, and then that way the black and the green side will have reconciled to rule as one new line of succession. That's just one idea, and I just pulled that off the top of my head. Like she could have come up with so many things. She has counselors, but instead they're all infighting. And she's here coming all the way, risking her life to essentially say, please now.
Yeah, but in terms of that, I don't even know what else she could have said. It really was just, I feel like that was just for herself to know that like there was no other course of actions. Because to me, I just don't see any way after Luce died of a peaceful resolution. And even before Luce died, I don't see Rhaenyra just giving up her throne. I don't see Daemon being okay with Rhaenyra just giving up her throne, you know?
Mm-hmm.
I don't see how all that flies, but at least we know the difference between a hilt and a foible, so that's what matters.
Yes, we do. Just kind of to summarize that thought for everybody, in case you haven't learned yet, a hilt is the part you hold, and a foible is the part closer to the point of the sword. It's away from you, but close to your enemy.
Exactly.
Don't mix the two, or you'll cut your hand. It's as simple as that. It is as simple as that. But yeah, that sounds like a good place to end the episode. I mean, do we have any final thoughts?
The question: who played the game best?
Oh, right. How could I forget? Who played the game best?
Performance?
Oh, wow. Okay. I'm going to start with who played the game worst. Daemon.
Okay.
What the hell are you doing, bro? What are you doing?
In agreement.
Like, get it together. Because now, like, Rhaenyra's statement about how he's weakened her claim could not be any truer. Not the river lords coming to show you up, bro. Like
interloper.
Are you kidding me? But yeah, whatever. Daemon. Who played the game best? I'm tempted to say Aemond, but I'm gonna say Jacaerys because he took a big leap here.
Same.
He took a big leap and managed to actually succeed. Sure, he was dealing with bottom feeders. I don't respect the phrase, but hey, he may have actually secured something for his side, because now the Starks don't have to travel so far and so long to like around to get to the point where they can actually aid Rhaenyra.
Yeah.
For all we know, they'll arrive next episode, actually. That could be something that could happen, right? Because you have to understand, unlike season 7 of Game of Thrones, when people are traveling here, they are traveling for like a very long time.
Yeah.
The North is very far away. Those people have probably they've been marching for like 2 months now, at least. Yeah. Right? Maybe even 3. So it's going to be a while before they arrive, but they're definitely coming, and they'll fight like Northerners, as Craig and Stark said. So having access to the twins for them to, actually pass through is definitely very useful. And as Jace said, if they're going to want Harrenhal, I like that he didn't just promise it to them. They asked for Harrenhal and said, well, if for that, you're going to have to bend the knee to us, which is well played, bro. Well done. So yeah, I'm gonna say Jace. Best performance?
Standout performance, I would say.
Standout performance, huh? I'd say maybe standout performance this episode. I'm gonna give it to Bethany Antonia, who plays Bela. I think she showed a lot of depth in this episode, a good amount of strength, a good amount of vulnerability as well. She had 3 different character interactions that let us learn a little bit more about her. And I think that those revelations were rooted more in the portrayal of the character than we might realize.
Yeah, I think I'm with you on played the game best. Played the game worst. Played the game best. I'm going to toss up between Jace and Bela.
Okay.
And the stand-up performance, I'm on thoughts between Baylor and Olivia Cook, who plays
plays Allison,
just because of the look in the small council she gave Daemon. That was
beautiful. That was so beautiful.
When I saw
Easily
that,
the
do you know
best shot
all
of
I
the
could
episode.
think? This is cinema. This is
Right?
it. Tasha Bankole will like it. People sitting around talking.
Is cinema. Priscilla, do you hear me? Oh my god, that's wild. Yeah, that's. You're right. You're right. That was so well done. I feel like that was such a great moment in the episode, and it's just one of those things that I think people will really enjoy. So yeah, that's amazing. I mean, we've covered so far, like all these little signs that they put here and there to let you know more about people. They really matter, and that's why this show ends up being the way it is, right? Even if somebody doesn't like this episode because it was too slow, it was too boring, there's still so much depth from the characters here, because this show understands that in the end it's about the character. George R. R. Martin himself always said that the only thing worth writing about is the human heart in conflict with itself.
Such a beautiful line.
So, and that's what he does, and that's why these stories end up being so meaningful. Like, it's in the end, it's not even about the friggin' dragons or anything like that. Like, this story at its heart is about people and what they need and how it conflicts with what they want. So yeah. But yeah, I guess we're gonna call it now. This episode makes me hopeful for what's coming next. So thank you to everyone who has listened to us so far. We appreciate you, and we definitely invite you to check out everything that we are covering right now. The feed is packed with quality content, and we're covering so much. We'll continue to do so as the month ends, and even as we get into the fall. Definitely stay tuned and subscribe to our newsletter, which you can get at popcornfordinnerpod.com/newsletter. But for now, it's Ebube and Afam signing off. See y'all next week.
See ya.